So welcome, Jussi. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And yes, so before continuing, let's have a quick look at the agenda. Most people in this webinar are basically already aware of what Tanaza is, but some of you guys came through social media and through the buzz that was created around this webinar. So we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about what Tanaza is and the vision for a unified platform. We'll hand it over to Hamina for a nice demo about what they do, have a quick question answer session, and then final remarks, basically. So Tanaza is a cloud-based platform that is there to help people and companies to provide B2B managed Wi-Fi services with huge flexibility. It is basically a centralized platform to give high level of operational efficiency to manage multiple sites through a centralized dashboard or via APIs. And what is special about it is that it provides huge flexibility on the hardware choice. It can work with very cost-effective devices. It can work with top-performing devices, provided all of them run Tanaza OS, which is our operating system. Just to give an idea of what it means and the flexibility it provides, it allows managing in the same exact way devices in the low end, such as even consumer TP-Link devices, Ubiquiti devices, MikroTik, Edge Core, and even higher end devices, all through the same dashboard and all with an extremely simplified and unified experience. One of the things that we provide also on top of the flexibility on the hardware side is flexibility on the software side. We're basically integrating a marketplace that allows enabling multiple applications on top of this platform that span from social Wi-Fi provided by third parties, MAC address identification, components to do monetization of Wi-Fi, and in the future, even detection of presence and other cool things. So why not bringing also Hamina to this marketplace? We think it would be fantastic to bring the power of Hamina to assess properly Wi-Fi radio frequency environments for every location, for every type of deployment, not only enterprise space, but also in every site, even in the SMB space. And the beauty of this would be that whatever you can do with Hamina, with higher end devices, is going to be possible to do with a wider variety of devices, all the ones that we do support with our platform. And we call this a sort of step ahead in the journey to change the status quo in the market. We really like what Hamina does, and I think it's time to hand it over to Jussi. Jussi, please. Just to share my screen, you can use just the comment to share it. Max, I think we need your support.
There we go. Sorry, I wasn't allowed to turn on my microphone, but now I am. Also, I would need access to share my screen. But in the meanwhile, thank you so much, Tanaza guys, for having us on the webinar. My name is Jussi, and Joel, how are you doing?
Really good, really good. It's a little bit early here, so I'm a little bit groggy still, but it's not super early. But I'm excited about this webinar.
And Joel is in Las Vegas, right? So it's like
Vegas,
what, 7 a.m.
8 a.m. So it's not too bad.
Okay, yeah. I feel for you, brother. I feel for you. Let me just open up a couple of slides, and then we'll get right on it. So today we're excited to talk about designing high performance Wi-Fi and different best practices, different things that come with it. And I promise you 10 slides or less. So it's not going to be a lot of slides. It's more going to be like hands-on and just actual tangible advice, things of that nature. About me, I'll let Joel speak about himself as well. About me, I've been in the kind of the wireless network design and design tools industry for 20 years or so. And anybody who's on LinkedIn, feel free to connect. There's a barcode for you, or you can just find me if you go on LinkedIn and say Jussi Wi-Fi or Google Jussi Wi-Fi. We with Joel, we have this company called Hamina Wireless. We've had it for a while. We've been in different Wi-Fi and different Wi-Fi design, wireless design companies throughout the course of our career as well. And we both actually were in an AI company called Mist that Juniper acquired. That's Wi-Fi focused as well. And for additional street credibility on this webinar, because our marketing department told us that for additional street credibility, you need references. So here's our reference. No joke. So it happens, we have a friend from Juniper Networks just visiting our office today here in Hamina. So here's Robert Boardman. Robert, who are you? How are you?
Hi, yeah, my name is Robert Boardman. I'm a senior systems engineer at Juniper Mist. I used to say Mist, now it's Juniper Mist. Now I live in Europe, but prior to that, I was the SE for Silicon Valley. So I basically design networks for ServiceNow, Netflix, Biorad. Yeah, a lot of them.
Kind of like the most
Yeah.
most difficult Wi-Fi you can find downtown San Francisco with
Yes.
thousands of neighboring access points.
So essentially, if you've ever been on a Juniper Mist webinar, they use a company that as a reference. So I've been part of even like the T-Mobile, the Google, the Amazons. So yeah, we've done a few challenging things.
Very cool. Thank you for joining. And talking about the reason you exist is the added credibility for Hamina, right? So
Yes,
so
yes.
you've been
I just materialized because you were thinking about credibility.
exactly. So you've been using Hamina's design tools, right? And
Yep.
we worked together in previous companies as well, things like that. So
Yeah.
how's the whole thing been for you? And please don't say it's terrible. I did give you $20, right?
So I've been doing Wi-Fi again back in the air magnet days. So, that was my first tool back to when you had to count your dings as you're walking.
Yeah.
And Hamina's, it's a godsend. I was on the plane today. I was on my way over here. I was on the flight. I was able to actually do Wi-Fi design on the internet using Hamina, and it works better than other tools. We'll not talk about other tools, but yeah. So yeah, it has gone from a product that it's like isn't running in a web application, and so you're thinking, okay, I've seen Java applets before, but I've thrown a 1 million square foot warehouse and CAD at it, and it uploaded it in about 2 minutes. So now you've got that running to go. It's doing wall design for you, and the thing is, the improvements. We ask for a feature or a function that we need, it's there in days, not 6-month iterations of firmware that break something else on time.
That's very good to hear. Nice to hear, and it's nice to have an expert like yourself here as well. If you want, feel free to hang out with us. We'll be going through like some best practices for wireless design as we go.
Yeah.
And
I'll sit and watch.
Yeah, please do, and you can call our call our bull whenever we go south. How about that?
I'm here to help.
Thank you. So yeah, back to the slides. Before the slides, Joel, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name's Joel. I live in the States, obviously, and from Boardman's old stomping grounds. And I just saw that Mike Rydalch joined. He lives pretty close to me, so thanks for joining, Mike. So UC's been doing Wi-Fi tools for 20 years. I've been doing Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi tools for 10 years. I've done a little bit of spectrum analysis and a little bit of packet analysis and some Wi-Fi design. And I also got to work with these guys over at Juniper, which was a lot of fun. So I've got to do a few different things in the industry. And at Hamina, I do a bunch of different stuff, everything from tech support and marketing all the way up to some product management type stuff. So yeah, UC.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Joel, for taking the hit for the early wake up and joining the call. So yeah, Hamina. So what is this Hamina thing we've been talking about? We make tools for designing different types of wireless networks. As we know, wireless in enterprises isn't just about Wi-Fi anymore. Today we'll talk about Wi-Fi mostly, but it's also about private 5G, private 4G, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and Ocean, whatever IoT stuff you throw at it. And also cabling, switching, things of that nature. So yeah, if you're curious to learn more, go to hamina.com or just connect on LinkedIn, sign up on our LinkedIn page, whatever those marketing thingies exist. I promised 10 slides or less. How many do I have to go? This is actually the meat on the bone slide here. So we'll talk about kind of fundamental things for designing wireless. I know, Tanaza makes maintaining wireless networks using kind of, close to enterprise grade gear, but maybe not quite up there. Tanaza provides a great platform for kind of boosting up your Wi-Fi maintenance capabilities and things like that. What we provide is kind of a little bit prior to that, when you need to figure out where to place the access points, how is the coverage going to be, how's the capacity of the network going to be. That's kind of our bread and butter. And these are kind of like, if I had to summarize like 5 key things, these would be like, what do you think, Rob? Coverage, secondary coverage, minimizing channel interference, capacity, client experience.
Client experience should be number 1. But
Yep.
I believe, you got it right. Then you hit them all very well.
And we'll also talk about other things, of course, as we go. So with that, we were thinking maybe the best way to illustrate things would be actually to show them on a live tool using an actual, let's say, a multi-floor university building or something like that. So what I did is I went out on the interwebs and just dug out a few, floor plans from the internet, and we could work off of one of those. How about that?
Yep.
So the first thing when you start designing a wireless network is probably kind of like figuring out the requirements from the customer and acquiring the floor plans from the customer. Because without floor plans, you don't really have a great reference, do you?
No.
And what kind of floor plans do you usually come up with when you ask your customers for floor plans? What do you get?
Napkins with drawings.
Yep.
Pictures of fire escape plans.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally a PDF.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
a CAD. Sometimes a CAD.
Exactly.
From an architectural drawing 30 years ago.
yeah. Where you then figure out it's.
And occasionally you get a good PDF.
Exactly. So I mean, Hamina, our tool runs on a web browser, and it's free to sign up, and it costs a few $100s, but so it supports these formats that you mentioned. You cannot actually fax a napkin. You cannot use a fax machine and fax a napkin into Hamina, but if you take a picture of it, it will take it. It will take JPEG, PNG, PDF, CAD files, all of that stuff. So let's say we get from the interwebs, we found a PDF of this university building. So I'm just going to drop it in. So it seems to be a 5-page PDF. And here's the first page of the PDF, which seems to be the ground floor based on the kind of 0, and here's the pages are starting to pop up. They're starting to load. So yeah, this actually looks pretty high quality as we zoom in. Of course, this doesn't update as quickly for you guys, but yeah, it looks pretty good. So we can probably work off of this.
Yeah, we can do that.
What do you think, Joel? This all right?
I think it looks good. Yep, I think that's going to do the trick.
Are we on the right track here? And also, Joel, if you don't mind, we have a chat functionality working, right?
Yeah, I've been monitoring the chat. So if anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, or just wants to talk, then feel free to use the chat function. I'm keeping an eye on that.
Excellent. Thank you. So of the first step, I guess, when you get the drawing from the customer, and let's say you're discussing with the customer still at this point, you have the luxury of during the first meeting, you would get this. Maybe you would discuss kind of like, what will you be using the network for? And these are kind of pretty typical network requirements. So you would need some kind of a decent signal strength for voice over Wi-Fi applications, and that's give or take somewhere around next 65 dBm, right? So and you would discuss kind of like what kind of devices, what kind of
What's the
applications,
use case, how you're using the network.
Exactly, and that might drive some of these things, like what kind of signal strength do you require, what kind of data rates do you require, what kind of capacity, but even more importantly, the areas of the building. So where should the Wi-Fi work and where should it not? So for this, we have this tool called in and out of scope zone, where either the Wi-Fi engineer or even the salesperson just out on the site, or whoever project manager can just mark the areas of Wi-Fi where it needs to work. So we're just going to say the entire building needs to be covered. So we'll use the out of scope zone tool for that. And how are you guys seeing kind of like, for example, staircases like in here? Is it typically required by the customer or no?
It depends, but I mean, for the most part, staircases, they're usually fire escapes. You're gonna have to core through concrete, and fire marshals don't like that. So generally, they're a no-go zone.
All right, excellent, excellent. So if the Wi-Fi leaks there, that's fine,
it's
but
best effort.
Best effort, excellent. So I'm gonna also mark them like out of
Same
scope.
with your elevators.
Same with your elevators, absolutely. So we'll just mark them out of scope. And this kind of keeps things clear with the customer. So as you do this together with the customer, you know, it keeps things fair. We have documented this, and maybe I would actually share this plan with Mr.Customer at customer.com or something like that, just to, you know, he will also have a way to access this. Then even if he doesn't pay for Hamina, that's totally fine. He will still have access to the project. And
what's really nice is it's up to date. So as you're making changes to it, he can look at it today. You add some stuff to it tomorrow. He'll have an update. So you put an actual tool that works with you instead of having to pass the version around.
Exactly. So I'll just share this with Joel at Hamina.com. I know he's a pretty good RF engineer. So
not bad.
Not bad. Decent. You know, on the decent scale of things. And then what needs to happen for the drawing is the scale. And I was gonna Robert's laughing at me because I was definitely gonna do the don't go there thing of taking a short distance of like a door and trying to say that's roughly 1 meter. What's wrong with that?
It's not wrong if you'd have nothing else, but just understand that when you're scaling a drawing, you're scaling based on a number. So if you start with a small number, 0.1 off grows exponentially. Where if you start with a long number, then 0.1 is much less detriment. So it's one of those things that if it's all you've got, it's all you've got. Don't let anybody tell me, oh, you just can't do it because you don't have it.
Yep.
That's not how the world works.
Exactly.
So if you have to start with a door, because this obviously has no scale, so you need some kind of a reference point.
Exactly. However, here we have 102 square feet. So that's roughly 3 times 3, little over times little under. So I'm going to say that's 3 meters. So at least we have some kind of a point of reference, and then we have the scale. But this is really, really important for network planning purposes, because you know a 20% mistake on the doorway might actually become pretty detrimental.
Might be a 20% mistake in coverage.
Exactly, a 20% mistake in your number of access points, which would be, you know, in a 100 access point network, it would be quite
the difference
interesting.
Between a successful and a failing wireless network.
Precisely. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to draw a in and out of scope zone here, because we can actually measure that. Let's click on that. I don't know if you've seen this feature, but it now shows the area size. So we have a little bit exaggerated because that's 100 square feet, so that's 10 square meters. So we could actually change this to square feet as well. So I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to scale it to be a little bit smaller there. So instead of 3 meters, I'm going to say that's approximately 2.7. And now if we do the same thing, and this is just, you know, doing a workaround because we don't have exact metric measures on this. How are we doing on this guy? Yep, it's getting close.
That's good.
That's good. So we now have the scale and we have the floor plan.
A nice thing that you're doing this is how you're measuring is if you go through, draw all these walls and find you have to change the scale, you can change the scale and everything scales with it.
Exactly.
So it's not like, oh, I've got to start over again.
Exactly. So even if you do a little bit of a mistake, you know, that's totally fine. And we'll focus on just this one floor for now. But yeah, so best practices for floor plan images. What kind of floor plan images do you want outside of the formats? Is there something you look for, like what would make a good quality floor plan? Definitely not colored, right? It shouldn't have too many colors.
Black and white would be nice. Clear defined walls. We love it when you get CAD drawings because they define the material in the wall, so that makes it real easy. Like with this, that's just defining a black wall. That could be drywall, concrete. It could be depending. But yeah, so really you want an architectural drawing that shows walls. But
absolutely,
yeah.
And up to date would be nice.
Yeah, up to date is always preferred. And then something with scale. So like again, here this is really nice because it gives you the square footage. You can determine scale. Like if you wanted to be really finite about it, you could sit there and adjust
Exactly.
and get to the perfect scale.
And the longer the scale, the better. So if you have a long line that's indicated somehow there, or a long volume or a large volume room, that would be definitely better. So if I was doing this properly, I would probably take the mechanical room and then draw an outer scope area around that and make sure that it's as close as possible to 441 square feet. But this is looking decent for now, and we might want to, I'm not going to be super precise about this, but I'm going to say that's out of scope, just to make sure that, we are in sync with the customer about the areas we need and don't need to cover. Joel, anything else besides black and white, crisp and clear, up-to-date floor plans? Anything that comes to mind to you, or anything on the chat board?
No, nothing in the chat board about it. There've been some good questions coming in. There was one about outdoor design, so maybe I could just touch on that really quick. You can do an outdoor design with Hamina. Basically, you're just going to bring in an aerial photo or something from Google Earth or something like that, and then draw in buildings as attenuating objects. So you could totally do that. So the floor plan, sometimes the floor plan isn't actually a floor plan. Sometimes it's a photo or something like that. But this is a really nice floor plan, though. It doesn't have tons and tons of detail, which I kind of like. That's kind of like the optimal optimal level of detail for design. So it's perfect for me.
I'm with you. And then the next step, I guess, would be walls. Of course, let's say if you're touring the site still with the customer, you might add some notes on the building, like we agreed no coverage required here, or something like that. Or if you encounter things of interest or stuff like that. What I sometimes like to do when I go to customer visits is kind of map out where there is let's say Ethernet jacks or double Ethernet jacks in important places. So as we go around with the customer, I might map out, we have a jack there, we have a jack there, that kind of stuff. So adding notes like that just might be a good idea during the customer visit. But after that, for a decent wireless design, I guess walls are pretty important. And the way to design walls in wireless network design tools, whichever one you choose, is there's usually two ways. There's the manual wall drawing, which would be just clicking your way through, kind of tracing all the walls. And we've tried to put a lot of emphasis in making that as smooth and easy as possible. Have you used the manual wall drawing in Hamina?
I have. I like it. I'm a manual draw guy because that's kind of where I've gone.
Yeah.
It's like I've spent a lot of time trying to fix automated, and so I just have
history
and just do manual. So
all right, you have trauma from historical tools, from legacy tools,
yeah.
Right?
From doors that are giant circles.
I hear you. So we have really easy to use wall drawing tools. Essentially, it works you choose the material, then you start tracing the walls, and it has all kinds of helper things.
Yep.
Plus, you can modify all the wall materials. You can add more if you have exotic materials, things like that. You can modify them to your liking. And of course, there's things also height of the walls, because you want to understand the 3D dimensionality, not just 2D
and a nice quality of life. The hotkeys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that. So as you're drawing, let's say concrete and window for the exterior walls, you can actually just press the W key during the drawing. That will make a window. C would again make a concrete, again a window, stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to kind of work your way around the whole wall drawing thing. The beauty of often especially with CAD drawings, but also PDF files that are often actually just exports from CAD drawings, they might preserve the layer information from the CAD file. So, for example, I believe with this file, with this file, we can actually just mouse over some of the layers on the vectorized PDF file and click on it and say, those walls I want to bring in as heavy drywall. Those seem to be exterior windows, so I'll just make sure they are thick enough. You want to go rather over on the attenuation than under, right?
Yeah. You would rather over attenuate and over measure. You'd rather have one more than one less.
Exactly. I like that. So now we seem to have colored most of this stuff. And then what I would do here, since this didn't have separate materials for the staircases, for example, I would go back and edit those to be concrete. So I'm just going to first import all of these walls, and then the cloud machine will do some magic, and there we go. So now we have all the walls in place, automatically derived from the PDF, and then I would just roughly, you know, paint out the walls of the staircase, and then say, actually, I want to change those walls into concrete, and you know, with that, we would get a decent estimation of like where do we have you know, staircases that block much more signal than normal office walls, for example. And what I also like to do is I'm actually going to delete the walls of the elevators, and I'm going to draw an
elevator.
An elevator in there, exactly, an attenuating object of elevator. So instead of drawing lines as walls, I'm just gonna draw a polygon of elevator using the attenuating object tool. So not only can you draw walls, you can also draw machines, shelves, things that are thicker than walls and odd shaped and whatever.
And the great thing is you can actually odd shapes as well. You can just change your tool.
Exactly. You can draw a Pac-Man.
You can draw a Pac-Man if you want.
To that point, just because we can. Oh, it's a red Pac-Man though. How? But can we fix that? We probably can. That's the ugliest Pac-Man I've seen in a while.
Make it be a car.
Exactly. But I'm gonna just modify the wall map just to prove that our wall modifier works. I'm gonna say yellow.
Yeah, yellow works.
Pac-Man. Pac-Man. Joel, anything I missed on the wall drawing / tracing?
No, I mean, the only thing I think you missed is that we have a literal Pac-Man icon. If you use the note tool, you can change it into a Pac-Man. So there's multiple. There are multiple Pac-Man options in Hamina. Sorry, Pac-Man-like or similar to Pac-Man.
Exactly. And speaking of yellow, there's also a banana icon, as it turns out, because it makes perfect sense to have a banana icon. All right. Hey, Sebastian, how are we on time, by the way?
I think you're good. I'm enjoying it very much. Also, the surprises. I didn't know about the Pac-Man, to be honest. I was trying to take the music and to put some music on, but couldn't find the right file. But
and here to you know, can you hum the Pac-Man theme? I don't even know how.
I don't know how. Yeah.
It's like
doing it, but it was going to be Tetris. I was going to go for a Tetris song, and that wouldn't have worked.
Anyhow, I think we're ready to start. You know, dropping in, you know, a few access points here and seeing how it works. How about that?
Yep.
All right. So before we do that though, how about we define also some high capacity zones?
Yes.
Let's say in the tech department here, there's gonna be, you know, a lot of devices.
Where they image their stuff. So
exactly, that's where they keep all of their iPhones and MacBooks. So I'm gonna say in the tech department, there's gonna be 80 iPhones and I don't know, 50 MacBooks and maybe, you know, a handful of Android phones and whatnot.
Just one Android phone. Nobody uses Google.
Come on, man. Didn't you know this is a Google webinar?
Oh, sorry, Google.
They're your customer, man. Anyhow, so what I did is I indicated that that's a high capacity area that hosts this many devices. We'll get back to that later if we remember.
Yes.
Anyhow, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start designing the network and just placing a few access points. And since Tanaza works with plenty of access points, we're just going to take the Ubiquiti APs here to start with. And what's a good Ubiquiti AP here? I'm not very familiar. I know you're not.
I was about to say the AC. I think that's their Wave AC. Scroll down.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 6 is the top of the newer ones. If I'm correct.
Yeah, probably true. I'm gonna go with Enterprise because it smells like Enterprise.
Enterprise always means it's better.
Exactly. And should we design for 2.4, 5, or 6 gigahertz these days? This probably doesn't support 6 gigahertz, so
it might actually. They have some 6 gigahertz.
That might be true.
I mean, I say I'm a dual now tri-band kind of guy, so I say design for all of them.
Design for all of them, but we won't. We'll design for one at a time. So how about 5 gigahertz?
5 gigahertz then. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna place a radio there, and as you can see, as I move it around, it updates the coverage heat map. And green means high, yellow means decent. As said, these can be configured, and we can even rename these to be like Robert quality or something like that to put you on a hot seat. And to make things a bit more clear to read, I'm gonna hide the walls and stuff like that. And as you can see, the staircase absorbs a lot of signal. We don't show signal in no coverage or like out of scope zone, so that's why it shows no signal. But as you can see, it doesn't really, not much goes through because we assigned it as concrete. But this is kind of the way where we could start like planning a lot for the wireless radio points. Yes, sir.
A good thing in this is when you're actually showing whoever you're designing for, is grabbing this AP and moving it around and showing them how it works. Because a lot of times, like everybody always says hallway Wi-Fi is bad. Now, if you put an AP in a hallway, you see why. You can actually educate at the same time as you're designing.
Exactly.
So they understand why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Precisely. And like the main problem is you should put the Wi-Fi
where the people are.
Yeah, Wi-Fi access points where the people are. And that's not really the case here. If you put APs in the hallways, you get great signal in the hallways. Sure, people spend some time there, but most of their times they spend in the rooms. And especially in hotels, you can see, more often than not, you can see hallway designs and
it makes good green maps but very bad Wi-Fi.
Exactly. And even the greenness is questionable, I think. Like if you put an AP here,
you start to hit those edges.
Exactly. And even though it might be green on primary coverage, which is kind of like, how do I hear the strongest access point? What about secondary coverage? You also want decent secondary coverage, at least on the yellow side, but that's not really happening here. And that's why you see more often than not, you see quite dense Wi-Fi networks these days. You need secondary coverage for redundancy. You need it for roaming, different things, right? So you might actually be looking at the secondary coverage heat map quite a lot as well as you're designing.
It's one of my primary maps to look at.
Oh, that's a good one. Your secondary coverage is your primary map.
My primary look.
Yeah, exactly. My primary look is secondary coverage. And
you want to get real crazy, you can get to tertiary.
Exactly. But that's more for like location tracking purposes usually, or stuff like that. If you want to design for location tracking, things like that. Okay, so it's starting to look actually all right. If this was my network, I would still fill kind of the secondary holes, things like that. But we won't fine tune, the world out of this.
Did you define your secondary coverage? Do you know what you're looking for secondary coverage?
That's a great question. Actually, you can see it here. So we have NEC 67 for secondary coverage, which is quite strict, actually.
That's pretty high.
Yeah. Should we put it to?
I usually go about NEC 70. Yeah.
All right.
I give about a 5 dB leeway.
Exactly. So starting to look decent.
I was going to say, sales guys hate that because they want to sell more APs, but technical people.
Yeah. It's
a balance.
Usually does the trick. Okay. So it's starting to look pretty good. So we have decent coverage, secondary coverage. What about channel interference? That's pretty important, isn't it?
That might be important.
So what is channel interference and why is it important?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
I hear you.
Okay. So channel interference is basically Wi-Fi is a half duplex medium and it runs over channels. That's where you see the 20 megahertz, the 40 megahertz, the 80 megahertz. And since it is a half duplex medium and it's collision avoidance, it has a wait to listen. So any disturbance on that channel causes a delay in connection. And so where you end up seeing is this is where you have more APs, you want channel separation, is because if you have two channels two APs in the same channel, you've just made your broadcast domain giant.
Yep.
If you have another channel with an overlap with another, now you've just introduced interference, and now you are basically waiting for that interference to be cleared.
Precisely,
Yeah.
precisely. So to put that same thing differently, there's a certain amount of spectrum that the legal entities have allocated for Wi-Fi, and that spectrum is divided into chunks called channels. And only one device will be transmitting on one device at any given time. So if you put two access points on the same channel in the same space, actually you will not be increasing performance. You'll be making it worse. And that's why also you need to design for things like high capacity and things like that. The more client devices you have associated on the same channel, whether it's same AP, different APs, all of those client devices have to take their turns to communicate.
Exactly. That's why you see with 2.4 the 1, 6, and 11. While there are 13, 14 channels if you're in Japan. I mean,
13 in Europe usually.
Yeah, 13 in Europe, 12 in the States. You only see 1, 6, and 11 because they're the non-overlapping channels.
Exactly. So do not use channels like 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually 1, 6, and 11. If everybody played by these rules, it would be better.
It'd be better.
Because not only is it bad if you put access points on the same channel, but then the logical thing would be okay, those guys are on channel 1 on 2.4 gigahertz.
Channel 3.
Exactly, I'll put mine on channel 2 or 3. But that's even worse. Because now
you're interfering with channel 1, channel 6, channel 2, channel
4. Exactly. And none of the devices know to back off actually, because they cannot clearly hear what's going on. They hear noise, but they can't quite get it. So it's actually you're making things even worse. So for 2.4, try 1, 6, 11 on 5 gigahertz. I guess the key thing is you have much more channels available, and also do not go on the crazy 160 megahertz channel width route, which just means you'll be running out of channels. You'll be stomping on everybody else. So 20, 40, maybe 80. 6 gigahertz, the new frequency band for Wi-Fi, our favorite subject. So if you're lucky enough to have a 6 gigahertz capable access point, that alone isn't enough though. What else do you need besides an access point to benefit from 6 gigahertz?
That might help.
Yeah, exactly. And what clients do we have these days that support 6 gigahertz?
Apple, iPad, MacBook. I know there's some Intel chipsets, so they're creeping out in Windows. Samsung, Android devices are creeping out. So we're starting to get adoption, but
it's the high-end devices.
It's the high-end devices. You're not getting budget devices. You're not getting your workhorse devices yet.
Exactly.
So,
so when you're choosing your access points, you do want to consider purchasing 6 gigahertz capable access points, but don't expect it to make a world of a difference for all of your clients, because typically your client base updates over time, and iPhones, for example, even the new ones do not support 6 gigahertz yet.
I look at it this way. I look at it at refresh cycles. So when you're going to design your network to add 6 gigahertz or not, are you going to have a major device refresh in your organization? So if so, that might be a time. Or do you refresh devices? Do you hold on to your devices till the wheels fall off? That might be a good time to get 6 gigahertz. But if you're a company that does 2-year refresh cycles on your technology, you know what I mean? Unless you're using it, I wouldn't make a jump to change it.
Not necessarily. Okay, so we talked about 1611. So let's see. Let's enable all of the 2.4 gigahertz radios just to see what happens. Even though this is not a very dense network, let's see what happens. And also we'll do a couple of funky things. Also, let's do this. I want to maximize my data rates. Give me 160 megahertz channels.
You want pretty speed tests.
Exactly. I want 18 gigabits per second data rates. And
that's Wi-Fi 7.
Oh yeah, sorry. So now we enable, and I'm going to take out the capacity, even just live without the capacity considerations for now. Let's look at the channels of the access points. Here you can actually see the numbers, and you were right. This Ubiquiti access points actually support 6 gigahertz as well as 5 gigahertz. So here we can see the radios: 2.4 gigahertz radio on channel 11, 5 gigahertz radio on channel 36, and a 6 gigahertz radio on channel 197. Excellent. So instead of coverage or secondary coverage, we'll look at interference on the 2.4 gigahertz band. Oops. That's pretty heavy. First of all, this through hole here isn't
Yes.
great for
No.
for interference for sure. But what we can see here is even though you know there's 11.6, there's decent channel separation going on here. It's still in 2.4 gigahertz there just isn't enough interference-free channels. We did what was supposed to be done. So 1, 6, 11, all of that stuff we did.
It's pretty much impossible to get 100% clean 2.4.
Exactly.
It's when you think about it, your 2.4 propagates twice as far as 5 gigahertz. So
there will always be
there's
some
always going to be
channel
some
interference. And the way to kind of counter that a little bit is, as you can see, our tool automatically assigned reasonable channel sets that likely, if you leave your ubiquity to auto, it would do a fairly similar job. But what we can do is suggest that, hey, Hamina, could you disable all of the, not all of the, oh, we have a dinner coming up. Disable unnecessary interfering 2.4 gigahertz radio. So what you want to do with 2.4 is, you know, have enough coverage, but still, disable some of the radios. Yep. So like here we can see it actually turned this off. The situation isn't as bad. It's still bad here because of the through hole of the building, but it isn't as bad everywhere. But none of these can be completely fixed.
It's 2.4. So it's 2.4 is always what I like to call your best effort network.
Exactly.
I'm not a big proponent of turning it off because that's a radio, that's a band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you still get spectrum out of it.
You still get some spectrum out of it.
Plus, some of your devices might be on 2.4. But then there's the 5 gigahertz animal, and you remember how we used those 160? Yeah. So that's why we're also seeing interference on the 5 gigahertz band as well. Is because we chose too wide of channels. So since we took 160 megahertz channels, like the base unit for channel is 20 megahertz. Now we just, each channel, since we put them on 160, each channel is the space of 8 normal sized channels. So that's why we're seeing interference, even though on 5 gigahertz, theoretically, you have a boatload of available channels, but since we're eating 8 at a time, we're seeing channel interference. So how about 40? 40 would be good enterprise.
That's an enterprise standard, because if you think about it, most people, the most complex things that people are doing are Zooms and team calls, and that use about 2 megabits per second.
Exactly. So now it's pretty much crystal clear on the 40, and even on 6 gigahertz, even though we left 80 on 6 gigahertz.
You have a lot of spectrum.
Yep.
In the United States, you have a lot of spectrum.
Yeah, and even in Europe, you have 500 megahertz,
so
which is plenty.
You won't be doing 80 wide, but
exactly. So that's coverage. We talked in the beginning. I had the side of primary coverage, secondary coverage, interference, capacity. But before we jump there, how about we look at directional antennas, because that can be pretty important in wireless networks, right?
Yep.
So let me just hide the walls, attenuating objects, but I'll get rid of everything else. I'll get rid of the client devices, access points, everything. And then we'll do a little bit of, since we have Robert Boardman from Juniper Mist here, we'll be using Juniper access points to design this warehouse. And let's say this is a warehouse. Oh, do we dare use AP45E? And do you remember which one is the 2.4?
Anyone with the 10 MPC.
Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, that 3D diagram is great when you're looking to choose antennas and you don't want to have to go through every data sheet in an antenna array.
Exactly. This just goes to say how we've modeled, each one of like hundreds of antennas and access points accurately in Hamina to kind of, give you a decent overview of like, what are you going to use? For example, in this warehouse, let's say we need to put the access point on the high ceiling.
Yep.
This might be the kind of antenna you want to shoot down from the ceiling, right? So let's do that. We'll choose that Axeltex antenna, this Juniper AP45E.
But your walls then? Or are they hidden?
They are now hidden. Okay. So we've drawn our walls. So I'm going to say we're going to put a ceiling AP at 13 meters. How about that?
Works good.
Yep. So I'm going to just put that guy in there, and I'm going to say, give me a custom placement for that. And I'm going to say 0 down tilt to start with.
Yep.
How about that? And I'm going to say coverage on the 6 gigahertz band. There we go.
Yep.
Actually, I'm gonna take an antenna that or like a situation that I know. So I'm gonna go to traditional 5 gigahertz if you don't mind.
That's fine.
So obviously no coverage on 6 gigahertz, but we have coverage on 5 gigahertz. Because this is kind of what I wanted to illustrate. An access point at 13 meters, even though we can kind of shoot that antenna here, but we're shooting to the side, right? And this is what you see often, especially with omnidirectional antennas in the ceiling of a high ceiling warehouse. It just doesn't reach the ground very well now, does it?
No. Be interesting if you did ceiling mounted too. I'm excited for you to show that.
Yep.
So yeah.
Now it actually points down, points straight down. I'm gonna still put it to the wall. So one way would be to put it ceiling mount, so it points down. The other way would be to have it on the wall, for example, and point it down. I don't know, 45 degrees, something like that. So you can see how it starts to give us a little bit of a green lobe also below the AP. This is starting to look pretty good. Now, I'd really like to understand the 3D aspect a little bit better. Not that we've ever shown this really anywhere, but let's look at the 3D aspect a bit more. I'm just gonna hide the channels. There we go. So about the height of the shelves, things like that. So I'm gonna go 3D here, and this gives us the ability to understand a little more kind of like how the access points work, how high the shelves are, how high the walls are. All of that comes a little bit more to life with this. So we can see this warehouse, for example, has lower shelves. Exactly. Lower shelves, higher shelves. Yep, exactly. So it gives you a different perspective to the whole thing, right? Makes everything understandable. And for example, had I modeled my air conditioning ducts incorrectly, they might be actually on the wall, and this makes it like easy to spot the mistakes that I may have done.
It's that floor air conditioning.
Yeah. It's one of those very common in
traditional fairy tale.
Yes. In Belarus based warehouses, it is a very common thing. Exactly. But yes. So that's kind of how you would use directional antennas and the whole 3D aspect of the whole thing. Joel, are we getting any chat questions? Anything like that?
All kinds of questions. But yeah, we've been having good conversations in there, and lots of love for the 3D view, of course.
Yes, it still makes me giggle and smile every time I see it. It just.
I was expecting some sort of standing ovation, and indeed that's the case. Have a look at the comments. So really well done. This is super cool.
And you see, if you go back to that first project that you were working on, if you'd like to show multiple floors, while you were working on the first floor, I actually you shared the project with me, so I actually went up to the floor above and did the design up there, and then aligned the floors. Or did I?
You overachiever! You overachiever! You even placed the switches in here.
Wow.
So maybe this is also something we need to talk about. But yeah, thank you, Joel. So this is the power of collaboration in Hamina. I shared the project in the beginning with Joel. Now he's done the floor, but not only that, he's also made it possible to see how signals travel between floors. So let's, for example, take this AP here. And what Joel has done is he's actually aligned two floors on top of one another. So like this. Ooh. Did I just mess up your?
I think we may have found a small bug. This is our test version. So there are bugs in this one. We like to live dangerously. But.
Yeah. So is this why we're not shipping this yet? There we go. It just needed
it's a UI bug, not an actual bug.
Exactly.
Yes.
It just needed a little bit of refresh. So what's happening here is we've now put these 2 floors into what we call a building to be able to see signals on top of one another, or like how signals go through floors. And we also align the floors on top of one another so that they accurately, are shown from one floor to the next. And now if we want to see how, for example, the access points on floor number 1 are audible to floor number 2, we could see not just not just the heat maps, but also what we can see, for example, here is in this room, this access point is actually on adjacent floor. So it's actually on floor number 1, and we can select that. Of course, access points on this floor give much better coverage. Access points on that floor give a worse coverage, stuff like that. And here we can also define like what's the height of the ceiling, what's the attenuation of the ceiling, things of that nature. So it just gives a different kind of perspective, while the 3D view gives a different kind of three-dimensionality. The floor to floor just takes it to a different level.
I think you kind of understated the fact of how easy it was just to align that floor, by the way.
Yeah, it's very visual, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just move them on top of one another.
Anybody who's aligned floors before in a wireless design, trying to find the point and pinpoint and making sure that is,
I appreciate the comment coming from an experienced designer. I feel your pain.
The little things. It's the little things.
Precisely. And I mean, a big part of wireless network design, you deal with this on a daily basis, is switching and cabling and power, right?
Yep. The best part is because a lot of times we're doing predictive designs. So you have partners that are trying to build bombs or build the materials essentially based around a design, and that cable, which you're getting ready to show and I'm jumping, it gives you an estimate of how much cable you need.
Yep.
It might not be where you're going to actually place it, but it gives if you put a switch in there, you put your APs on, you align that AP to, the switch that you want it to go to, and you have a general figure of how much cable you need so that a contractor can actually say, okay, I need this much cable run.
Exactly.
You just saved an entire site visit in itself right there, because you can make a guess. You can make it 10% plus or minus on cable, which would save a guy. That's definitely cheaper than a guy going out and physically walking a building.
Exactly, and just simply by placing the switch on the map, we get counts of used ports for each of the switches, how many free ports, how much power is allocated given that specific Ubiquiti or Juniper access point type, and it also gives you a rundown of the cable lengths and things of that nature. And if you want to do different things like understand like how the whole bill of materials looks like, one click away. And the big thing about wireless network design, 2 more things I wanted to touch. We'll talk about capacity maybe next time. One is the client experience, where you can actually walk the client device around the site and see exactly where the device would be roaming, how it would be behaving, what kind of network performance would you be getting. Of course, amazing performance because we designed this network. Oh no, all kidding aside, it's Robert quality all the way in here. But yeah, switching important, client experience important, and it has a complete report builder, because what you hand out then to your boss or customer really matters. So we have a fully blown reporting system that allows you to send either a web link to the customer to look at as a report, or a PDF, an actual tangible report, and these are fully customizable, all of that. But all I'm saying is reports are actually pretty important, right? Because that's often what the customer appreciates.
They are very, very important. People want their paper copies.
They do want their paper copies. But have you sent any customers kind of the online report where they can dynamically zoom in, zoom out, click on the APs, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So what I generally do when I'm sending a report, especially a Hamina report, I literally send the link. I don't send a paper copy unless they request a paper copy. But we send the link, and then they have a copy that they can view on their screen. We'll usually get onto we get a Zoom call or something like that going, and I'll walk them through it. I'll show them why I've done what I've done, and they can see it live. It's not me having to share screen. They can ask questions. They can touch it. They can feel it.
and then you fax them
then when their boss comes in and says, I need a paper copy of it, yes.
You fire up your
Yep.
fax machine, take a little bit of time travel to the 80s.
Yeah, go back, get them in that nice binders. Remember?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Another nice thing is the fact that you can give this view link to your contractors as well. And now when they're placing APs, they don't have an excuse of saying, well, I kind of thought it went here.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell from the PDF. Yeah.
They can actually measure the distance from the wall.
Exactly.
So
nice.
Yeah.
And then they can also pinch zoom in.
I have a very large customer in the United States that was their biggest complaint, that the guys who were deploying the APs were like, we just have to guess where this goes. And we didn't like it. And now it's like, no, you don't anymore.
Nice. And Joel, what's the quirkiest question you've had on chat today?
Quirkiest question.
Talk about throwing you under the bus all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah, I'm very, very, definitely under like a big bus, like, the buses they pack like 60 people into, like one of those.
Yeah. Like a tour bus, it's really noisy even.
Yeah, full of Americans. Let's see. Because you said noisy. Let's see.
Called ambiance. I learned this from West Purvis, your colleague.
Yes.
If a restaurant in America is noisy, it's called ambiance.
Ambiance, yes.
It's not noisy.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? I would say quirky question, and they were all just really, really good questions. Lots of great stuff in here. Of course, we had a question about site survey, and if Hamina will be supporting site survey. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we fully support predictive site surveys.
You're fired, UC.
Wow. I have to say that was a beautiful deflection.
Can you please walk him out of the building and take his laptop? Thank you.
And with that, thank you very much. So apparently you're not supposed to say predictive site surveys, but yeah. So we'll be coming out with a site survey app soon, as well as hardware, and will be compatible with different hardwares as well, like WLAN Pi, NetAli hand scanners, things of that nature. Robert can testify. You saw the app today.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does exist.
Exactly.
It's not slideware.
Or was it just slides that I was like really smoothly? Just,
no, I've seen you actually do it. I've seen you walk around and it pop up on a phone.
Oh, darn. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. So, any other questions, Joel?
I kind of answered them all as they came along. Ooh, one from
Not
Mike.
only did you do a better job at the design.
Yes, Mike.
NetAli G3 support was the question. Yes, sir. In fact,
colleague of mine, by the way.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's sneaking into these things.
Oh, it's not here actually yet, but in our test system, we already can import data from, for example, from NetAli Cloud and stuff like that. You never saw that, anybody? Neither did you see the 3D or anything like that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Joel. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Another question was, does Hamina support changing the transmit power of the access points? And thumbs up from UC.
Absolutely.
Yep, you can change that.
Then there was a question of integration with Tanaza, and I'm happy to report Sebastiano has been crucial or gracefully kind of driving this project forward, and we will be expecting integration with Tanaza as well, right, Sebastiano?
Oh yeah. Yes, you see, this is absolutely correct. So in fact, that was actually the initial intuition. We like to connect, things on top of our platform so that we see information flowing and we can actually create value. So I actually put together this slide, which I think I can use. Just let me share my screen a second. And I also was wanting to bring that question to the attention about the power level, because I think it would be very cool to change the power level.
About you acquiring Hamina, right, Sebastiano?
Not maybe next year. 2024 could be the right year to do that. Right. Okay. Yeah. So this is pretty much the view we have at a very high level. So Tanaza, in essence, is everything. I mean, it's a complete system except for hardware. So you can imagine everything from firmware to communication system, the infrastructure, the cloud, everything, and then you can plug on, below it any bare metal hardware or any off-the-shelf hardware. And so what can do with Hamina if we do that? If we connect that together? Well, first of all, we mainly target cost-effective deployments, and usually the way they plan, access point location is like this: one here, one there. Yeah, let's hope that's how planning is done. And so we think, RF design is absolutely needed. But it's not only about doing that before, it's also doing something you can do after. So the first thing is any network managed through Tanaza, it would be pretty cool to be able to extract that one, plug that one with Hamina, ideally with bidirectional APIs, and see the network popping up. So you can basically switch from a floor plan view to a floor plan with all the cool radio frequency items that you just showed, and see what the hell I did with my deployment. Oh, maybe I screwed up, maybe I didn't. What is secondary coverage? I don't know about it. I need to learn about it. So most deployments in the SMB space are done by people that can't afford doing decent RF planning. And we want to make it easy. We think this is the way to democratize properly designed Wi-Fi. So that's the thing, to connect the two things together and bring information of existing networks to Hamina. The other one is the one below, is allowing using all these cool things and doing all these cool things that you can do with Hamina, also on devices you don't expect are usually bundled with these type of services and things. So basically any hardware device that we do support that can be managed with our system, ideally could be, its RF propagation could be assessed with Hamina. And that is really including extending a lot the set of devices that, on top of which you usually expect to do things like this, which is really used to be only for the enterprise. And in this journey will become more democratic and more for, also the rest of the folk, basically. So what we want to do with this is to connect with everyone that is interested in this type of topic, and do this sort of call to action to join us in this journey, join our early adopters group that will basically have discussion with us and also with Hamina about how to do the integration, about testing the integration, about what exactly expecting, so that we can basically bring this to life sooner than later. This is actually what we are actually going to do. And I mean, after this presentation, I think I'm just even more excited than before. So really, really well done. I'm happy to have you both. Robert, it was a huge surprise. Really happy. I didn't know about that, so that was good.
I didn't know about
Thank you,
it either,
Jussi. So I mean, yeah, that's great, Joy. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone for joining this webinar. Any other comment, guys, or remark you wanted to bring? We have here the two websites, and we'll send this presentation over after the webinar, actually.
I just wanted to say I put my email address and phone number on the chat. If anybody wants to reach out at any point, feel free to do so. And yeah, talk about democratizing wireless. Tanaza makes an amazing system for like getting so much more out of your Wi-Fi network, and our stuff starts at $390. So I don't think wireless design has
ever been that cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can buy from our website. You can also send me money. I'll put in my bank account. No, I'm kidding. But you can buy the tool from our website in like 1 minute if you got interested. So yeah, thank you so much, Tanaza, guys, for having us on. If there's enough interest from the audience, and Tanaza, guys, we'd be happy to do a follow-on to this webinar covering advanced concepts, things like that. This was great. Thank you, Robert Boardman from Juniper Mist.
Really, really, thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and you guys enjoy the rest of the week.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.